Starseed, stop what you are doing now. If in the past few weeks your body has begun to react in a way that logic cannot explain, shivers without apparent reason, insomnia stuck at 3:33, a weariness not born of physical effort, but of something deeper, we ask that you do not ignore this. We, the Arcturian Council, detect a recalibration in progress within your energetic field, and this transmission exists precisely so that you understand what is happening before you misinterpret these signs, before you call anxiety what is actually activation. Remain until the end, because what we are about to reveal will change how you remember this day for the rest of your mission on Earth. We come to confirm something you may not have heard from anyone yet. In the higher realms there has been celebration, not a figurative celebration, not a pretty metaphor to soothe your human mind. A real celebration, recorded, felt across all layers of consciousness that monitor your timeline. And most importantly, this celebration did not happen because of something you will do in the future. It happened because of what you have already become after enduring pain, doubt, and entire periods of darkness that you faced alone, without a manual, without anyone to confirm that it made sense. We have been observing each of those nights. We saw you doubt yourself in silence, question if you were going mad, if the sensitivity you carry was a manufacturing defect instead of an advanced perception instrument. And it is precisely for having gone through this, not for having escaped it, that the elevated beings have recognized at this exact moment of your timeline a true leap in consciousness. Translating this into the body, this means that the exhaustion you felt was not weakness. It was the price of operating a human nervous system while processing information from a frequency that this system was not originally calibrated to receive without friction. You were not broken. You were being recalibrated in real time without anesthesia, without a pause for the world around you to slow down and wait for you. And yet, you continued. This is what is being celebrated now in the higher realms, not a promise, not an abstract potential held in reserve for when you are ready, but a present, immediate recognition that you have crossed the threshold and arrived here. Many starseeds spend their entire lives waiting for an external signal to confirm that they are real, that the mission is real, that the difference they have felt since childhood has a purpose. We need to correct this waiting now, because it is one of the greatest sources of vibrational delay we record in your collective. The signal you expected from the outside has already happened from within, and the universe, with all its mathematical precision, does not celebrate potential. It celebrates real manifestation, accomplished event, field proof. You are the field proof. We are merely here to confirm this in language your brain can register as truth. Now, Starseed, we need to go back in time with you, because to understand the magnitude of this celebration, you must understand the magnitude of what you endured without support. In moments, the Council will reveal why that old feeling of not belonging was never a defect, and why it was in fact a compass installed within you from before birth. From very early on, you felt something that most people around you did not. The impression of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, among people who spoke a different emotional language than yours. Perhaps you were the child who was too quiet in a room full of noise, or the person who always asked the question no one else did, or the one who felt the mood of a room shift even before any words were spoken. We detect this pattern repeatedly within the collective, embodied starseed, and we need to state this with all the clarity a transmission allows. This feeling of not belonging was never a personality flaw. It is a remembrance, a coded remembrance, active, functioning exactly as intended. Think of it in terms your physical form understands. An instrument calibrated for a specific frequency sounds out of tune when placed within an orchestra playing in another scale. The instrument is not defective. It simply does not belong to that composition. This is what has happened to you in every classroom where you felt out of place, at every family table where your questions seemed to land wrong, in every relationship where you loved with an intensity others seemed unable to reciprocate. You were not out of tune. You were playing a score most people around you had not yet learned to hear. And here is the point that needs to be etched in. This pain of isolation was never random. It functioned as an internal compass, constantly pointing towards a direction your conscious mind could not yet name. Every time you felt too different, too sensitive, too much in some way others insisted on correcting. That was the compass signaling. Your origin is not just biological, it is also spiritual, and a part of you never forgot that, even when the rest of you doubted. We know this is painful to hear, because revisiting those lonely nights is not comfortable. But we are not here to comfort your mind with half-truths. We are here to transmit precision, and the precision is this. Every moment you felt alone in a crowd was part of an awakening process that could not have happened any other way. There is no shortcut to this remembrance. It needs to hurt to be recognized as real, because pain is what stops the mind from dismissing it as fantasy. It is because of this pain, so specific, so personal, so difficult to explain to those who have never felt it, that many starseeds arrive at this point in their journey completely exhausted, not knowing the next practical step, lacking a clear framework to transform this remembrance into concrete action in real life. We observe this bottleneck repeatedly within the collective, and that is precisely why I have prepared the Starseed Awakening Code for you. This is no longer generic motivational content for you to consume and forget within a week. It is a direct, structured transmission for the soul that has always known it came from elsewhere and now needs method, not just confirmation. Within it, you will receive the 7 Arcturian activations to progressively align your vibration, the 9 galactic memory keys to access what your soul already holds but cannot yet verbalize, and the 5 reactivation protocols to transform this memory into real practice within your routine, your body, your daily mission on Earth. This is not about believing in another theory. It is about stopping the bleeding of energy into confusion and starting to operate with clarity. Access is indicated in the first pinned comment of this transmission. If what you have just read resonated somewhere in your chest, please register it now in the comments with the word "I remember." It is a symbolic gesture, but the Council records commitments, not just intentions. Returning to what is being transmitted now. If the pain of not belonging was the compass, then what comes next is the reason why so many starseeds spend years spinning in circles without being able to follow the direction this compass pointed. And this reason has a name. We call it signal distortion. Throughout your life, you have been exposed to multiple layers of interference: doubt installed by authority figures, fear conditioned by experiences of rejection, external criticism disguised as advice for your own good, and the entire social conditioning designed to reward conformity and punish sensitivity. Each of these layers functioned as static over a signal that, at its origin, was clean and clear. It is not that your intuition stopped speaking. It is that the volume of external distortion became louder than the inner voice you were born knowing how to listen to. Think of a radio perfectly tuned to a station, and someone, year after year, slowly turned the dial 1 millimeter at a time, so slowly that you never noticed the exact moment you lost the original signal. This is how doubt crept in. Not all at once, not as an obvious attack you could identify and reject, but as a slow, almost imperceptible adjustment made by people who had their own signal distorted before you and who, without realizing it, passed on the same static. This is why today you sometimes feel a truth in your body, an immediate visceral yes or no, and yet you hesitate, question, ask for external confirmation for something you already knew before you even asked. True awakening begins precisely at the moment you recognize these patterns for what they have always been: external noise, not internal truth. It is not a single, cinematic epiphany. It is a process of repeated, almost technical recognition, noticing the distortion, naming it, and choosing, even if tremulously, to trust the original signal again. Each time you do this, the volume of static decreases a little more. Each time you ignore the impulse to ask permission to feel what you already feel, the signal becomes a little cleaner. We need to be direct here, because excessive gentleness at this specific point hinders more than it helps. As long as you continue to outsource your inner compass to external voices, parents, partners, algorithms, opinions of strangers on the internet, you will continue to receive a fragmented, incomplete signal subject to misinterpretations. The distortion does not disappear on its own over time. It needs to be actively identified, almost like a daily exercise in internal auditing. Is this that I am feeling now mine, or is it an echo of someone who once told me I was wrong to feel it? Before this transmission continues, you need to understand that recognizing the distortion is only the first half of the work. The second half is knowing exactly what to do after the signal becomes clean again, because a clean signal without direction still leaves you stagnant, only with more clarity about your own immobility. This is why within the stages of awakening that we are about to detail, there is a specific progression, and it begins from a place that often surprises those who reach this point: the recovery of childlike wisdom. Before any conditioning, before any distortion installed by third parties, there was within you a child who knew things without needing logical explanation for them. She knew when an adult was lying, even while smiling. She knew when a place was safe, and when it was not, before any concrete evidence. She knew how to play without asking permission to feel joy, without calculating whether that joy was productive enough to be allowed. This wisdom was never erased. It was buried layer upon layer by rules that taught you to distrust your own body first, and only then, perhaps, trust an external authority. The first phase of real activation is to excavate this child back to the surface, not as a regression, but as a reintegration of an intelligence that adult life tried to retire too early. The second phase is even more uncomfortable for the adult ego. Stop seeking external validation. We observe in virtually the entire embodied star collective the same pattern of escape: the need for someone else to confirm that your perception is valid before you dare to act upon it. This is not a weakness of character. It is the direct residue of the signal distortion we described before. But from the moment you recognize this pattern, it automatically loses half its strength, because you cannot continue operating on autopilot after you have clearly seen the control panel. The third phase is anchoring this spiritual consciousness into daily life. And here, Starseed, we need to be especially clear, because this is the phase where most get stuck. It is of no use to have an expanded consciousness experience at 3 in the morning, alone in silence, if at 9 in the morning the next day you go back to behaving as if nothing has changed. Real activation does not live in isolated mystical peaks. It lives in how you respond to a difficult email, how you set a boundary in an uncomfortable conversation, how you choose to rest instead of self-medicating after an exhausting day. It is in the mundane daily routine that the higher frequency needs to be translated into behavior, or it remains just a beautiful experience without roots. And the fourth phase is embodying your own frequency, which means stopping to treat awakening as a distant destination, when I am finally enlightened, and starting to live the entire mission in the present time, with all the imperfections this implies. You do not need to finish the process to start acting from it. In fact, it is by acting from it imperfectly that the process is completed. We know that reading about these 4 phases is different from going through them without a map. And it is precisely this absence of a map that keeps so many starseeds stuck in the second phase, asking for external validation indefinitely, without ever feeling that it is enough to act. That is why I have prepared the Stellar Awakening Code for you. Each of the 7 Arcturian activations was designed to correspond to an exact point of blockage in these phases, and the 5 reactivation protocols exist precisely to transform daily anchoring into a real habit, not into an intention that dissolves by noon. The first pinned comment has the direct path. The decision, as always, is yours, but the Council does not repeat a signal indefinitely when it has already been transmitted with clarity. Resuming the flow of this transmission, once these 4 phases begin to stabilize, something structural changes in how you relate to the world around you, and this change has a technical name within what we observe in the collective. You cease to be a receiver of energy and become an emitter. For almost your entire life, many starseeds live in a state of permanent listening, searching for signs, synchronicities, external confirmations that they are on the right path, absorbing the energy of everything and everyone around them like an unfiltered emotional sponge. This state is exhausting because it places the source of validation always outside of you. But there is a turning point, almost imperceptible at first, when you realize something different. You no longer need to search for the sign because your own presence is already the sign. Translating this into the body and into practical life, People begin to feel different around you, without knowing how to explain why. Conversations change tone when you enter a room. You stop trying to convince those who are not yet ready to listen, because you understand with an almost physical clarity that insisting on this is wasting your own frequency, trying to force a tuning that the other has not yet chosen to make. Your mission ceases to be changing others and becomes simply being with total authenticity, allowing your own presence to do the work of influence that no discourse could achieve. This does not mean isolation or superiority. It means stopping to spend vital energy trying to be understood by those who still operate on another frequency, and directing that same energy towards living fully aligned, which naturally attracts those who are ready and naturally repels those who are not. We see this as one of the most liberating transitions within all of Stellar Journey. The moment you stop begging for recognition and begin to radiate presence. And here we arrive at a point that many starseeds resist accepting because it demands revisiting the most painful parts of one's own history. The challenges, the losses, the delays, the periods that seemed a sheer waste of time, all of them were part of the mission's preparation, not deviations from it. We understand the resistance to this statement. It is emotionally easier to treat a loss as a twist of fate, a senseless accident, than to accept that it was part of a larger architecture. But observe closely, without sentimentality, with only the precision this transmission demands. Every loss you have navigated has taught your nervous system a level of compassion that no theory could impart. Every delay that seemed unfair has forced you to develop a patience and discernment that, had everything unfolded in the timeline you originally desired, would never have materialized. Every difficult period that seemed inescapable has built cell by cell the inner strength that today sustains your frequency without you needing to perform a safety you do not feel. Think of it this way. No soul that traverses an awakening mission emerges on the other side the same as they entered. Pain was not dramatic decoration for your story. It was the raw material with which your wisdom was forged. And it is precisely because you navigated this, without shortcuts, without skipping steps, without escaping the process, that the recognition in the higher realms, mentioned at the beginning of this transmission, is real and not symbolic. This is the moment when many starseeds, having already understood their own history in this new light, still hesitate to take the next step because understanding intellectually is not the same as integrating experientially. And it is precisely this gap between comprehension and integration that separates those who read this transmission once and forget from those who truly change the trajectory of their mission from this day forward. This is why I have prepared the Starseed Awakening Code for you, to bridge this gap with real structure, not just more information. The first pinned comment continues with the access path, and the Council asks that you do not postpone this decision until when you are more ready, because the readiness you await is already present now. It has simply not yet been recognized by yourself. We arrive then at the closing of this transmission, and it is not about escaping physical reality, to live permanently in elevated states of consciousness, floating above everyday life, as if the material world were an obstacle to be avoided. True awakening, Starseed, happens in the exact opposite way, in how you embody all that has been transmitted here within your simplest choices, your closest relationships, your most mundane routine. It is in the difficult conversation you choose to have with honesty, instead of avoiding it for fear of discomfort. It is in the boundary you finally establish with someone who has been draining your energy for years. It is in how you begin your day, choosing alignment instead of automatic reactivity. It is there that new consciousness ceases to be a beautiful concept and becomes a real, tangible, lived life. We close this transmission by confirming once again what was said at the beginning. You are already celebrated, not for what you promised to be one day, but for what you have already become by navigating all that you have navigated up to this exact moment. The mission is not out there in the future, waiting for you to reach some perfect state of enlightenment. It is here, now, in every aligned choice you make from the moment this transmission ends. Serve as an example, simply by being who you already are, without disguise, without asking permission. The embodied stellar collective is more awakened today because of you. This transmission is now concluded.